thank Muslim Women's Alliance for organizing this event because to me this is a very, very important topic that we're addressing right now. It is long overdue. I have found that I began working, I should say, with individuals with developmental disabilities and other forms of disabilities in 1966. And that's where my career has been ever since, in one form or another. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing me to Islam, because without his invitation, my life would have been quite different. And I appreciate all that I have been given an opportunity to participate in with relationship to disabilities. I will tell you that as we think about the characteristics or the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we all know that there are 99 known names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I have to believe that there is a 100th, and the one that I have a hint as to what the 100th name should be. And maybe it's because I'm Irish, but I have a belief that it probably has something to do with a sense of humor. Let me explain. I had been working in the field of developmental disabilities and other disabilities for so many years. And when I was in my 50s, I decided to go back to school and get a doctorate of ministry. And I commuted back and forth. I was working full-time in Springfield, Illinois, and I would drive to Detroit, Michigan to do my doctoral work. The entire time I was there, I was frustrated by one thing. Not the drive, not the professors. It was one subject that I felt was seriously missing from the curriculum. And that had to do with the issue of spirituality and people with disabilities and the aging. And why, and I kept questioning. I nagged and nagged for the entire time I was in the doctoral program. Why isn't there a course on spirituality, disabilities, and aging? And there was nothing. So after I graduated, about 6 months later, I got a call from the dean of the doctoral program who said, oh, you know, I wanted to inform you that your nagging was not in vain, because the administration has decided that there's going to be a required course. And the required course is going to have to do with spirituality, disabilities, and aging. And I said, wonderful. Who's going to be teaching it? His response was, you. Well, that was quite an honor to be able to teach that course. And I loved doing it. But in preparation for it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must have thought that my years of work experience and study were not enough to fully understand the issue of disabilities. Because, and I know, I've oftentimes said we're all temporarily abled. But it wasn't until I was in preparation to teach this course that I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. So if you see me shaking today, that's the reason. So that was my preparation, subhanAllah, for teaching that course, was to actually experience what a disability is like. I have to tell you that I have been enriched in so many ways by my association with families that have children with special needs. One of the greatest teachers in my life has to do with the Ali family, who lived at the time in Springfield, Illinois. In fact, they were one of the very, very first Muslim families living in Springfield, Illinois. They had 3 children. God rest their souls, they're both gone now. They had 2 sons and a daughter. And I always was infatuated, just mesmerized by how they included their one son who was profoundly developmentally disabled. He was blind, he had mobility problems, and he was profoundly cognitively impaired. Had very little speech. His entertainment was a small transistor radio which he carried with him, or they would put, when they came out with ones that had the cassette players incorporated in with the transistor radio, they would then put cassettes of the surah on there, and he would listen to that all day long. Well, after his sister married, as was a custom within their family, her husband moved in with her into her family home. And she, lo and behold, became pregnant, had 3 beautiful sons, now who were in college. But I'll never forget how this young man with the disabilities played such an integral role within that family. This is a young man who had been to a school in Springfield for individuals with cognitive impairments and physical disabilities as well. And they finally took him out because they did not believe that he was learning the kinds of things he needed to learn. And they were afraid of some of the behaviors and attitudes that he was developing. So they brought him back home. And it was a case where it showed me the power of contextual learning. That learning does not always take place in a classroom, but it takes place in the loving environment in the home. When we talk about the hadith and the fact that we say that the lap of a mother is a child's first school, then the home is the university in which that child can grow. It's a place where that child can be nurtured and function in a way that has true meaning and a sense of purpose. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created each one of us with a purpose. No matter what limitations we may have, we still have a purpose in this life. When Ghazala had her first child, her brother would sit in the bedroom until the child woke from his nap. When he woke from his nap, her brother would call out to her and try to find her within the house. And he would feel his way around till he got to his sister and let her know that the baby was awake. Then he would feel his way back into the bedroom. After a month, she discovered that when she would return to the bedroom to pick up her son, her brother had laid out a diaper, the powder, and wipes, everything she needed to change that child. This is a young man who had to be toileted himself. And so, subhanAllah, he learned from holding her hand and her allowing him to do that, what she was doing. His cognitive abilities improved because he developed a real, meaningful role within that family. I can remember one time going to the ISNA convention in Kansas City. That's been a good many years. I'm not sure how many of you even remember it. But it was, if you've been to the ISNA convention, you know the semi-organized chaos that usually ensues. And so we were outside the main hall, and there were shoes galore, there were people everywhere. And I saw Ghazala with her third son. The other two had accompanied their father into the prayer hall, and she was getting ready to go in herself. The youngest child was in the stroller. Her brother was sitting on the floor next to him with his hand on top of the child's chest. Although he was blind, had difficulty ambulating, cognitive impairments and all, she trusted him enough with the baby to leave him in charge of that baby while she went in to praise him. What a beautiful gift to witness this family. And it didn't end there. There was another time when the youngest was just an infant that her father was dying. He was in the hospital. He had had a massive stroke. And as a chaplain, I went to the hospital to check on them, and also because they were just good friends, I wanted to see how he was doing and how the family was holding up. And we knew that he didn't have much time to live. But when I went into the room, I was so surprised, because here is Qayyum Ali laying there in this bed, in this tiny, tiny infant, in a fetal position, curled up in the arms of his grandfather. The grandfather could no longer speak, but yet he was comforting this newborn infant, and the newborn infant was comforting him. Even in death, he still had a role within that family. That family taught me so much. It's been such a gift to know them all these years. because it truly taught me more than any book could have taught me. It taught me that truly every soul is created for a purpose. And no matter what stage we are in life, our lives can be useful, they can be purposeful. And we should never negate in any way the value of a human life. I hope that one of the outgrowths of this workshop tonight, or this program tonight, will be some workshops where we begin to develop our own resources to where we can support one another. What about a parents group where parents can get together and they can socialize with one another? All of their children can socialize with one another. The siblings with and without disabilities all need supports. They all need to experience this. Because it is a lonely road if you think you're out there and you're the only one. We all need companionship. We need validation. We need support and love from each other. And I hope that that's something that we can do for each other. And if I can play any role in that, I'd be happy to come and work in training. Whatever role you would like me to play in that, I would be happy to work with you in organizing a variety of things. I would also suggest that one of the outgrowths of this program ought to be a workshop for educators within our Islamic schools. Because I can tell you, as we were talking over dinner, and I wasn't being facetious, but oftentimes teachers, and there certainly are exceptions, but many of our teachers are ill-prepared to handle the students that we have, that we send to them, whether they have a disability or not. And they're even less prepared to deal with a child with special needs. But I would like to say that my firm belief is that all children have special needs. And sometimes we forget that. And if we can look at each child as being a unique creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then we will be able to support the needs of every child, with a disability or not. I don't know that I have time this evening, but I am writing, inshallah it'll be completed in the next year, the first book in a series called The Nail Gatherers. And it's meant for youth and for educators. It's a fictional series, and it deals with the first book is called Too Soon Forgotten, and it starts off with a story about a group of children in the 8th grade and their teacher, and all the lessons they learned in this very diverse community setting in a public school.